Culture of Agriculture. My name is Andy Junkin. With me tonight is Dan Purtell from the Wilson Law Group. And Dan specializes exclusively in estate planning and succession planning in the state of Wisconsin, which obviously means he does this for small family businesses, but mostly for family farms. And Dan, why don't you tell us about your practice? You're out of Madison, Wisconsin, right?
We are. So our firm is a boutique estate planning, business planning firm. On the business side, it's really business succession planning. So we're on the west side of Madison, Wisconsin. We work all over southern Wisconsin. So actually, I would say throughout the state, but most of our clientele is in southern Wisconsin. We have 4 attorneys. 3 of us are partners, board certified estate planning specialists. So we take a lot of pride in the fact that this is what we do in terms of estate planning, business planning. And when we talk about the farm families, they are, because of where we are here in Wisconsin, they are a big part of the puzzle that we put together in our practice.
And just so we don't, there's some farmers thinking right now, estate planning, oh, that's boring.
Right.
How much of a cost savings do you find that you can provide as somebody who specializes in estate planning versus a small town country lawyer that does everything? You were a small town lawyer for a couple of years, right? And what kind of cost difference would you provide a client, say with a $5 million business that's doing estate planning right now? What kind of competitive advantage would you be able to do against who you were back in 2002 when you were a part of a small town practice?
Yeah. So when I was doing my small town, working out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, working as a general practice firm, I was doing a lot of real basic stuff. And what I found was I wasn't really helping people plan to save money. I was helping them just put on a piece of paper where things go. And the problem with that is it doesn't plan for Uncle Sam, doesn't plan for things like estate taxes. So when we talk about Uncle Sam, it's estate taxes, it's capital gains taxes. When we look at succession planning, or we're maximizing what we can do in terms of retirement dollars, making sure that the next generation is able to leverage what they do with blood, sweat, and equity and cash to the next generation. So, the estate tax exemption is pretty high right now per person. Right now, it's about $5.5 million. But our farm families throughout the state tend to have large estates because you put that value in that land, in that dirt. There's a lot of value. So it's not uncommon for us to see a farmer that exceeds even that $5.5 million. If we don't do proper planning and get the use of husband and wife's exemptions, that means that every dollar above $5.5 million, we're going to take a hit of about 40% in taxes. So, and by the way, where does that money come to pay for those taxes? If it's primarily in the land, that's not cash. And so all of a sudden we end up having a little fire sale on the side, try to pay off Uncle Sam if in fact we don't do good estate tax planning. So that's one good example. Let me give you one more. We have mom and dad who have the farm. They want to transition it to the next generation, but one of them ends up having to go to the nursing home. In Wisconsin, we just had the state of Wisconsin estate recovery rules, which if mom or dad want to go on to Medicaid to help pay for their care, there could end up being a lien on the farm. The farm could end up being sold, and now we end up having the farm go sideways to a third party when we wanted to go down to the next generation. Instead, we could do planning where we can start the plan of protecting the family farm by putting it into an irrevocable trust, by looking at long-term care insurance. Now, we don't deal with insurance, but we'll get you to someone. But that value means we're protecting the entire value of the farm as it goes from one generation to the next.
And how much of it's a ticking time bomb for a lot of farm families. They don't, when mom and dad are in good health in the late 70s, they think that we just don't. How many family farms have you seen that they just didn't put much thought, or actually a lot of families, they don't want to think about a mom and dad actually being in poor health to the point that they need to be in a nursing home. Right. And how much is costing as far as what's the burn rate do you see in the average nursing home in the state of Wisconsin, in rural Wisconsin? Is it $3,000? Is it $5,000 a month, or what kind of cost are you guys seeing?
Yeah, I wish it was that. Yeah, I wish it was that low, Andy. We're looking at somewhere, and this is throughout the state of Wisconsin, so this is an average, but even in rural areas, we're seeing anywhere from $6,000 to $7,000 per month for skilled nursing care. Now, of course, most people don't want to go right to the nursing homes, but in some cases, that's where you have to be to get the care you need, and that can burn through a heck of a lot of resources real quick. So at that tick, we're looking at about $100,000 a year just to have one, either mom or dad in the nursing home. We put them both in, we're doubling that. So it's an issue of, can we provide protection for the assets ahead of time, or are we going to leverage some dollars that mom and dad have now to try to create a pool of assets in long-term care insurance that will pay for that care? So that is probably the number one area in our practice that is growing exponentially. Is mom and dad walk in and they say, we do not want to have the farm have to have a lien on it or have to go up for sale simply because one of us goes to the nursing home. And we have willing participants that want to come in as the next generation. It could be a second, third, fourth generation farm. We don't want that to happen. And because of the costs, it could happen. And we've seen it happen.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of farms go into bankruptcy, and the neighbors would say that it's because of piss poor management. And there might be a little bit to that, but I've seen a couple of cases where it's actually been because of the long-term health care costs that the neighbors didn't know about. And
Right.
and then poor decisions made after. I mean, how many family farms can really handle a $12,000 a month burn rate? I mean, it's huge, and some people don't just talk about. What You have a program called Our Way. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure,
What is it?
sure. So what we've done with this program called Our Way is the best way for me to explain it is it's a maintenance program. It sounds like something you'd get for your car, but that's not what we're talking about. This is something that allows us, as part of an organized plan, to see our clients at least every other year, to do legal updates. If they're in the process of doing a succession plan, we're going to check in with them. We're going to make sure everything is up to date and is working. We're going to do education for the next generation, so that if we have the kids who are taking over, we're checking into making sure that everything is working. If we name the kids as successors in that estate plan, we're going to educate them as to what they need to do in the long term as mom and dad become incapacitated. And so what we're trying to do, honestly, Andy, is get away from the idea that attorneys just draft documents and do transactions. We want to educate our clients and have relationships with them. I think one of the biggest benefits is that the kids get to know us, so that as they come to questions when mom and dad are having issues, they can give us a call and they don't feel like they're calling someone they don't know. Not that we're the first person they call, but I might be the real close to that first set of eyes that they're going to want to look at what's going on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just want to. When you're doing estate planning, it's the most important thing. You have a relationship with the family. In order to be effective at what you do, you got to have a relationship with the family that's meaningful. It's just it's nothing more personal than talking with a farmer who spent his entire life building up the estate, than talking about what he wants to do with his legacy. And really, to get to be able to make change within a lot of with a lot of farmers, you got to have that personal relationship. It might take a couple months to get there. It might quite a few $1,000s, unfortunately, of a lawyer or a financial planner's time to really get to the point of having that personal relationship where you can actually have meaningful conversations. Would you not say that?
Yeah, I'd agree. And what we try to do as best we can is to go out in the community, and we've done this for about 6 or 7 years now. Go out and do presentations. And this isn't a sales pitch. This is truly educational. We know that if we give people good information, they learn a little bit more about what their weak spots are and what are the things they need to work on, that they're going to come to us and they're going to ask for help. And what we really do try to do, I think is a big benefit, is when we sit down with families, we do it as a complimentary meeting for the first several meetings. And then we will put together a proposal and it's a flat fee proposal. We really don't do a lot of hourly billing, which I think is something they appreciate, because then they don't have to try to guess and worry about making a phone call. How much is this going to cost? How much is that going to cost? That's one of the benefits of working with a specialist, is we've done this enough to know about how much time we're going to have to put in, and then we can say, here's what the commitment is, and they can then make those decisions about if it's worthwhile to go through that process.
So you teach not just farmers, you do financial advisors, bank officers, advisors as well. You want to talk about the education that you provide into the community?
Sure,
and
sure.
Why it is that you're experts in the state?
Yeah. We just really are strong believers in the education and bringing all of the team members that have to help these families into that same fold. So we will do presentations for financial advisors, insurance professionals, trust officers, even we work with some of the members of the Wisconsin Farm Bureau and the various county extensions, just to help them understand and do some issue spotting. So when they run across the situation with mom and dad are on the farm and they don't know what to do, they can help kind of coach them through that initial phase. And for us also, just to go beyond the advisors, we definitely want to bring some issues to our clients, which aren't just legal, which things like identity theft, how to avoid those things, how to plan for a pre-plan for funeral, things like that add value. That's that relationship-based planning and education-based planning that not just to toot our horn, that's what we like to see people look for in a good attorney.
And what are the biggest surprises that you continually are surprised by that farmers, when they walk in to start the succession planning process, and when they actually go through it, what have they learned, and how their mindset's changed? Yeah,
I think that what we find is that when we start that succession planning process, they are surprised by how emotional it is. We're talking about century farms. We're talking about the land that is going to pass on to generations after them. And it can be a very difficult conversation to get them to really engage in if they're not quite ready for it. And I will tell you, the farmers that we work with tend to retire much later than the general public for that reason. They actually enjoy what they do. They don't want to give up on it. It's a lifestyle. And to get them in, so that's one part, is getting through the emotion. Another part is getting, if we use that mom and dad scenario, let's get mom and dad thinking about what life looks like after they have transitioned, whether it's they're still on the farm but they're not working quite as much, or some would like to move off the farm. Some want to move to Florida and get the condo like some of the other people that we know out there, but they have to have that discussion with their family, with their financial advisor, with us, about what are their expectations for retirement. And retirement is a varying term for them, but every family has to come to that, and every couple or individual does. And I will tell you, the other side of it is really embracing all of the different options and then concerns about tax impact. Uncle Sam, the state, even some of the local issues with taxes can really destroy a succession plan if it's not done on purpose and with a lot of forethought. So we want to have the CPA involved. We want to have the financial advisor involved. And I think it can be a little bit shocking when they realize that this isn't something you can just fill in the blank and do. I'm not going to do the same thing the neighbor did. I have to do my own plan. So we do get a little bit of this. Well, I was told I need to do this or that. Well, that's getting the cart in front of the horse. Let's figure out what your goals are first, and then we'll get to the planning. But the planning can be awfully detailed. It just has to be done thoroughly.
And have you seen, I mean, obviously life insurance is a good strategic option at different points.
Right.
And you don't sell financial products. You just sell legal services. Is that correct? So in your opinion, what are common ways that are beneficial for the average family farm to use financial products? And what kind of financial products have you seen recently that have kind of been sold sold to the farmer where it wasn't very useful? What are things that a farmer should be, financial products out there that a farmer, in most cases, I mean, there's always an exception, might be sold, but it's you really shake your head and wonder why did they do that?
Right, right. I mean, I think that there's two main ones I want to talk with you about. One is term insurance. Term insurance is a time and a place for it, but if the insurance, the death benefit, is meant to make everything fair in the estate plan, that can be a big problem because we know what the term means it's going to go away at some point, right?
Yeah.
So if that's going to be the grease that makes the wheels turn, we better darn well have it be permanent, or at least have a plan for when that insurance is going to go away. So nothing wrong with term insurance, but I see too many policies in place that were done because it was cheap, it was inexpensive, it was quick and easy, and there wasn't much of an investment. But the problem is it leaves things high and dry when that term insurance isn't there to help balance out the estate. The other thing I will tell you is about basically certain types of annuities. There's nothing wrong with annuities to provide income streams, but there are a lot of, and there's a lot of out there to read and to look at. But annuities get sold to a lot of people, including farmers, as the answer to all of their ills, to create an income stream. Well, annuities tend to do that on some levels, but on other levels, there's a high premium in terms of a commission. There can be a lot in the way of if mom and dad pass away, there's really nothing that goes on to the next generation. So those are two areas I'm always concerned about when I hear about those things. Someone has too many annuity products or something like that. What I do like to see people considering is permanent insurance and long-term care insurance, particularly long-term care insurance that is a life insurance product that has basically a long-term care rider. So the old idea of protecting what the assets that are there from the long-term care issue with the nursing home would be to get traditional long-term care insurance. And the problem with that long-term care insurance, if you died in your bed, you never went to the nursing home, then that money kind of went down a rat hole, or at least people felt like that. Some of these new products are really interesting where you can have a death benefit if you never used a long-term care insurance. And so that again can add some money into the pot to kind of balance things out. And it can make it much more palatable to cut that check to that company every month or every quarter when you know you're going to get something back. So those are things that we like to see considered. I just met with a family today that was right in the midst of doing that, and I told them, get that part done before you come back and we can proceed with the succession planning.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with what you just said. The tell us about philosophies that the senior generation should have when entering succession planning, and the junior generation should have. What would you what kind of a different type of philosophy do a lot of, say, moms and dads that are in their 70s? What do you say to them in order to change their mindsets a lot of times?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to understand that what they see as being the future of the farm might not be the same as what the next generation has in mind. And not that they can't be the same, but I think that for that older generation, they have their idea as to what things should look like, how things should happen. And they tend to look at the younger generation as having a lot of ideas with not a lot of plan as to how to get those ideas implemented. So we really want that older generation to be open, but they also have to be honest with themselves, because we have many different of those older generation members that think they're going to live forever. Well, guess what? They're not. We want to make sure that they're thinking about what happens if. And we all know that none of us is going to get out of here alive, but it's a matter of having the planning in place and being open to planning and being open to letting control go, because succession planning only happens if someone succeeds you. So for the younger generation, it is respecting, it's kind of the flip side, respecting how things were built, understanding the time and commitment that went into things, and understanding that conservative financial decisions probably were made because some of those senior members of the family went through things like the Great Depression. They went through the 80s. They went through times when things were awfully rough. And even though we've had some ups and downs, we'll always have ups and downs in the agricultural economy. I think that being aware that decisions were made based on history And yes, they have a lot of goals, but they need to be open to the kind of the traditions that were established, and they have to be willing to engage on the flip side with taking over leadership. And so there's a training process that we like to work through of how do you do the books, how do you work with the various companies that mom and dad have established relationships with, how are you working with the government agencies if there are subsidies, etc. So they have to be willing to engage in that process, or we end up with either side holding on to their ideas and not sharing, and then not implementing new ideas. So it can be a little bit of a struggle, and I do think that that is where there's more of a counseling component than a legal component to a lot of these discussions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could go on for a couple hours here. I really appreciate your time. I think I'd like to have you back on the show at another time where we delve into a specific topic that you teach.
Sure.
But with me tonight has been Dan Purtell. Dan, you're the Wilson Law Group. How do people get a hold of you?
Sure. An easy way from any distance would be go to our website, which is www.wilsonlawgroup.com. Our phone number here is 608-833-4001.
You want to just repeat that for those people that are just getting their pen right now?
Sure. So again, wilsonlawgroup.com. It's all one word, Wilson Law Group. And then the phone number is 608-833-4001. And let me say one other thing. Even if you're not in Wisconsin, we have a network of other attorneys we can refer you to. And so we would be more than happy, if you're not a resident of Wisconsin and have concerns, to get you to someone that we feel could take care of you.
That sounds good. Well, I really appreciate that. Tonight with me has been Dan Purtell with the Wilson Law Group. My name is Andy Junkin of Agriculture Strategy, and this has been the Business Culture of Agriculture. Dan, thanks for being on the show, and you folks have a good day. You take care, and God bless.